Hello, my name is Ernest Cinco Bales, and today I will be having an informative speech on World War II. I'm not going to be going too much into it because that would be a whole bottle of wax that I would try and condense into 6 minutes, so I will just bring about the plot points from the very beginning to the very end of the war. So, next slide. Or do you want, can I?
You can do it.
Oh. Right, I turned this into a three-part slideshow which goes over the three main things. First off, the very beginning of the war. World War II took place after World War I, obviously, but it took place because of a very deep hatred for the Outer Powers in Germany. After the loss of World War I, the German people suffered from various... Britain, when it beat Germany in the very first World War, it put a very heavy tax on the German people, and the German people struggled very hard with that tax, so they decided that instead of rather to pay that tax, they would rather save up and build up their military to where perchance they could win another World War, forego the tax, and create a larger German Union. So let's start with the very first part. That would be the German invasion of Czechoslovakia. Germany is right here on this map. Sorry for the low quality, but Germany is right here and Czechoslovakia is right here. Czechoslovakia was a neutral country and had no part in this war. Germany simply took it over because of all of the resources in it. And sadly enough, our world didn't really do anything about it because it wasn't a big deal at the time. Let's talk about the Axis powers. The Axis powers were going to be two countries sided with Germany to create the Axis powers. That would be Germany, Italy, and all the way over here in Japan. And so these three would work together in the war and hopefully work to have a success in their war campaign. So let's talk about the British and French entrance into the war. So after Germany had conquered Czechoslovakia and other things, they'd conquered actually two or three. They had started to invade Belgium, which triggered Britain to enter the war, and also France follows simply afterwards due to their alliance. And so this right here is Britain and this is France. And they are going up against two or three main superpowers, but are focused on two in their close proximity. So the British and French enter the war, and shortly afterwards, Russia and Germany have a pact, a mutual agreement pact, to where they will invade the country in the middle. That would be Poland. So after World War I, there was a Rhine created that separated two parts of the German country, and in that Rhine was Poland, and so they felt the need to attack Poland to bring back their greater Germany that they lost in World War I. And so with the assistance of Germany and Russia, Poland fell easily. They put up a staunch resistance, but it was just two massive superpowers colliding on each other. And so let's talk about the warfare of the time. The warfare is not like we know it today. They had rudimentary in our modern day. They had trenches. Trenches were dug all along the borders of France and Germany, and they were built in to stop the advance of other troops. So what Germany did was Germany attacked through higher Belgium. Belgium was home to the Ardennes forest, and no one had built trenches over it because they thought it was impenetrable just sincerely by the thickness of nature in that area. But the Germans broke through the Ardennes forest and cut around and took France within 2 weeks. France fell in 2 weeks. Part 2 would be the war in Africa. Despite the main conflict going on in Europe, a lot of these European countries also had African provinces, African locations that they operated out of. They would take the resources from Africa and bring it back to the countries. So Germany actually had a lot of provinces in Africa, and the British and actually the Australians had joined in at this point, and they were contesting the African battlefields. And then we want to bring about the Japanese expansion. So Japan is a fairly small island country, if you can see, but with the addition of Japan into the Axis powers, it really tried to expand hard and heavy into other islands. That way it could boost its sphere of influence. And one of the ways that they wanted to boost their sphere of influence without having negative effects was they wanted to try and sneak attack the United States of America. Had the bombing of Pearl Harbor, where they had a surprise attack on the United States naval base of Pearl Harbor, where they sunk the USS Arizona, and they had thought to cripple the United States naval fleet. And after that, the United States obviously went to war against the Axis powers. Actually, it's a funny story. The United States went to war on Japan, but due to Germany and Italy being in the Axis powers, they went to war with America. America never went to war with Germany. Germany went to war with America. And so, Stalingrad, over the European theater, it actually escalated to the Asian theater. So the German offensive into Poland, Germany and Russia had a pact to take over Poland, but Germany had a very negative sentiment towards the people of Russia, so they started to advance into Russia's country to try and invade and take over Russia. And so that invasion was stopped at the city of Stalingrad, where the most casualties of any war have ever been recorded. And due to the harsh winter weather, as well as the German unpreparedness, the Russians actually made an amazing counteroffensive almost all the way back to Berlin. And that brings us to part 3. As Russia was making their counteroffensive to Berlin, the United States, Australia, Canada, and Britain had what is called as D-Day. That was the Normandy landings. It was a joint operation of soldiers going from the British coast over to the French coast to try and take mainland France back, as well as get to Berlin. And Mussolini, he was the Italian dictator of Italy. Well, he was the Italian fascist dictator of Italy. Italy was actually a smaller player. They were very ill-equipped for this war and did very negative. They did a lot worse than what they did better. So Italy's dictator was executed shortly after the race to Berlin. The race to Berlin was the race of Russia, or was the USSR, and America to take the German capital of Berlin. And who won it? Russia did. Russia got to Berlin faster than we did. And then we go to the Pacific theater, where most of the European powers had dropped out and they were working on recovery. But because of Pearl Harbor, America had to do a vast series of island-hopping campaigns where they, in the end, dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to put Japan out of the war and end it for good. So that is my World War II speech, and here are my sources of which I used, and thank you for your time.